The best kept secret in building a SaaS. Let's talk about it. This is John with Gringo.dev reporting live in Mexico City, which is what makes me the Gringo, incidentally. So, we're going to talk about a little something something called Laravel Jetstream. And I think the intro here actually does a good job summing it up. Laravel Jetstream is a beautifully designed application starter kit for Laravel and provides the perfect starting point for your next Laravel application. Jetstream provides the implementation for your application's login, registration, email verification, two-factor auth, session management, API via Laravel Sanctum, and optional team management features. That's a lot of stuff. If you wanted to get all of that out of box with another solution, you'd probably be buying a SaaS boilerplate or something like that. And all of those components would be independently updated, maintained, all of that stuff. And still, even after buying it, the onus would probably be on you to keep everything up to date and secure, working together as breaking changes happen between packages and all of that. Laravel maintains all of these things first party, and so that really isn't that much of a concern for you. Of course, there are small breaking changes between versions, but Laravel hasn't done a big change for some versions now. So it's quite stable, and this is a lot to get out of the box. So it does look something like this. I'm going to, later in the video, go through the CLI commands. There's really just a couple of things that you have to do after setting up a project, and then you just basically have all of this ready to go. You focus on implementing the stuff that is actually relevant to your business, and you go from there. And so right now, I'm in the process of using this, actually, for a startup that I'm building. And so we're doing some machine learning stuff, and of course, that part is in Python, behind some Flask endpoints. And if you ever worked with Flask, you'll know how minimal it is. And so rather than stitching together a bunch of stuff to expose those services safely to the world, because there's some other stuff that's handled for you in Laravel too, like social auth even, or rate limiting on API endpoints, things that are important if you actually want to ship. So what we do is we use Laravel as our outward-facing layer to the world. So every request, whether it's on the website, which is really just sort of an admin panel for the business user, they get some dashboards and things. They manage building, they manage their teams, all of that. So that's really just handled for us through Jetstream, right? We spin up some APIs, we handle the rate limiting and authentication through there, and then we proxy any API requests, for example, to get the process data or something from an endpoint. That passes through Laravel to our Python services internally, and then that way they can be very simple, right? They don't really have to worry about authenticating or rate limiting or all of that stuff because all of that is handled external through the Laravel layer. So even in a case where you can't stretch Laravel to handle the entirety of your use case, this is still an option that's very worth considering. I can speak to that firsthand. So just to briefly go over your options here. So you can choose Livewire and Blade. And so that's basically going to feel like a standard server-side rendered application. And you can use Livewire for as much reactivity as you want. And so Livewire is a really incredible technology. Obviously, it is just JS under the covers, but it really just feels like you can write your entire front-end reactive, buttery smooth spa entirely in PHP. It's really cool, actually, especially once you get the hang of it. And they've done some things to make it super fast and like it's slick, man. Really good stuff. You also have the choice out of box, again, same features. You can get Inertia plus Vue. Inertia is another approach to solving the same problem. Like, I guess basically the question they're trying to solve here is how can you leverage Laravel for the things that it's really good at, like all of the server side stuff, but still have a very nice feeling front end experience that also has a great developer experience. And so where that kind of breaks down traditionally is you have your API layer on the back end, you have some sort of framework on the front end, and it's some work to set that up and maintain it. And if you just want to move fast and like be agile and learn quickly as a startup, that can be a real drag on your velocity. And so Inertia is essentially a middleware that sits between you and any request that goes to Laravel. And it handles all of the first page load versus fetching a fragment from the server. And it does some things to inject props from the server into your component server side so you don't have to worry about maintaining that state. All of the routing is still handled in Laravel and all of that stuff. So it's a nice middle ground. And then you're just basically writing your views in Vue.js instead of Blade. There's also an option, it's a community option, but there's a repo I'll link in the description that will give you Inertia plus React. And I have also used that on the project too, because at the time, React was the JS framework that I knew. And that worked very, very well. It was React and TypeScript, and it was just a very beautiful, elegant experience. These days, though, I personally choose Livewire just because it just feels like you're on a rocket ship. It's very fast to move through this stuff. So let's jump over to installation. And it's a very simple process to get started. So you start an app like normal. you require Jetstream as a package, and then you just basically have a CLI to set up Jetstream with the features optionally that you want, right? So what I'm going to do, you guys can review this real fast. Nothing to it, really, to be honest. I mean, it's a very simple process. So I'm going to go and set up a Jetstream with Livewire project. I'm going to pull up my terminal here, and let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, composer, create project. Jetstream Livewire, let's call it. After this runs, change into directory here. Great. And now, composer require Laravel Jetstream. Okay, there we go. I actually want to install team support with this, so we're going to redo this. Forgot that command flag. No biggie though. And there we go. And here we are. So this is the install command. I have added teams. There is also a flag that you can add here for dark mode support if you would like. I'm going to leave that off for now, but you can do it. I feel like the real hipsters now, like me, OG hipster, light mode is becoming a thing now. Dark mode got so trendy, and you can't follow those trends. So let's run that real fast. Create some migrations, generate some files, all of that good stuff. Cool. That is good. Now we just got to set up a database real fast, and then we can run this bad boy. Cool. So we're going to go into our in file here. And let's see. I need to change some database stuff. So we're going to make this SQLite just to make it easy. And DB database, and this has to be an absolute path, if I am not mistaken. Jetstream Livewire db.sqlite. There we go. I think the rest of this we can leave as is for now. Okay, there we go. And then lastly, let's install our packages. Okay, cool. So we are going to try running this thing. Let's see if I got my DB correct. Try to run the migrations. Yes, create it. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so now we are going to open PHP Storm and flip a few settings so you can see the database I just created there. And first thing we're going to do is turn on the API functionality so you can see that. So there is a file, config.jetstream.php. And so there's a bunch of features that you can turn on in here. So we are just going to turn on all of them. So the two major ones here are profile photos, so your support for avatars and everything like that, and then also API authentication. And so you can get a token. This is primarily useful in the case where an API is maybe part of your service and you want to give a token to developers so that they can authenticate to that API. And so it's a way to manage that. It's kind of similar to what GitHub does if you ever tried to use one of their personal access tokens or something like that. You can also just take a look at all of the stuff that it's generated for you. Most of the things that you're going to want to customize are around here. So in app and actions, actions are an architectural pattern that Taylor used to create this package. And you can override or really just extend the stuff that are in these callbacks in here to customize behavior. So you can see here that there's just basic kind of stuff that you would see in a controller in a lot of cases. Authorize, validate, find the thing that you want to operate on, dispatch an event. And so, yeah, if you want to add something here, for example, something I usually do on most projects is when creating a user, I will update password rules in here and I forget what it's called offhand. I'll probably do like a small or a short or something about this, but there's a way to do have I been pwned, like that check, so that people aren't using passwords that have been found in a breach. And so that's something that you can add here, and then it'll just flow through to your actions. And that's one example of how you can tweak things. But yeah, any sort of behavior that you want to override and all of that. And there's documentation on how to override various things if you want to. So this is actually like pretty configurable. It's using another package called Fortify, which is sort of headless authentication for Laravel. And that's all in here as well. So let's fire it up and see what we are dealing with here. So first things first, you just want to run npm run dev locally so that changes to your files are hot refreshed. You don't actually need to run npm anything in prod. You just do a build once before you deploy. So don't worry about that. And then here, we're going to do PHP artisan serve. And that should bring up the app. So let's flip over to that. Okay, and here we are. So this is the welcome page for the little app. And this is where most frameworks would stop. We're going to show you all the stuff that we get out of the box here. So I can go and create an account here. This is just email authentication, but you can easily add a package, first-party package called Laravel Socialite that will let you have GitHub, Facebook, I think Twitter, like whatever, all of the social providers are there. And then for anything that's not sort of in that package, you have a community package or packages that very easily let you extend to all of the other providers within that sort of Socialite framework. And so that would let you do things like Okta and SAML if you're doing like B2B use cases, which I am at the moment, that kind of stuff. So create an account here. And here we are. This is the client authenticated dashboard. All of these are just blade views. You can customize them as you see fit. You go here, you have your profile management set up out of the box, including some nice little things like profile photos, avatars. These are all just blade views, by the way, in the project. So you can go and customize these, add new fields, add new rules, like whatever you want to do the normal way. And all that's done. The update password flows and all that are handled for you with emails that you can customize. All of that, this is pretty cool. You can enable multi-factor auth here and use like an authenticator app or something, which your enterprise customers might appreciate. Manage other browser sessions and optionally also enable account deletion, which you might have to in the case of GDPR compliance or something like that, right? So that's a lot to get out of the box already, but there's more. So you also have API tokens here. And so if you ever used a service like GitHub or something and created a personal access token, and it's very similar to that. And so it's just an easy way to authenticate services on behalf of somebody else. So you also might be interested in creating a token that you as the customer can use to authenticate with this app, right? And so in the case where the app is exposing APIs, somebody can easily pass the token across, and that becomes a mechanism for authentication as well. Something like that. So, and you can assign permissions and all of that. I believe you can customize these however you want. And there you go. So you save this, it's kind of a one-time show just so it's not insecure or anything like that. And then presumably you would either use this to implement or pass to an engineer or something. And then at that point, it would be kind of like you, right, in token form. And so it would inherit all of the same permissions and all of that stuff. So very handy and easy to get going with. And then also you get team support out of the box too. So if you're doing, especially in sort of B2B app, but even B2C stuff sometimes, Like GitHub, of course, has teams or organizations, that kind of thing. It's a similar concept. And so you can call them whatever you want. Again, these are blade views, right? So you can customize the verbiage however you see fit. But you can assign a name, manage all of that. You can invite other people, give them a role. The roles are customizable and you can use them for really anything. But I mean, most commonly it's going to be permissions, right? So you can imagine that in a certain type of app, maybe admin and editor is not the right ontology. And I want something more like admin, billing admin, dashboard user, analyst, like something like that, right? And so essentially it might map to people who can consume the information in the dashboard but not really do much else. There might be somebody who can consume but also add new billing methods or something. So that might be somebody from the accounting team. And then, of course, you have an admin who can do everything, including adding new team members, adding new billing admins, like that sort of thing, right? And so all these email flows are handled for you out of the box. You can tweak those as well. Again, they're just normal Laravel email templates, and all of that just kind of works. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. You get a lot out of the box, and it's a really good starting point in my personal experience for just moving forward very quickly with your Saas. So let's flip back over here to Jetstream service provider.php and just take a look at what we can do with respect to roles and permissions here in the app. And you can see that we have a couple of roles out of box, which we saw in the UI previously. So there's the admin and then there's the editor. And so maybe this doesn't make sense for the particular app that we're working on, but it's easy enough to change. And so all you have to do is edit the stuff that you see here. So maybe admin looks good, which it probably does. Although we could probably tweak this. Let's say that we have more than one resource we care about. So we could say these are all going to be relative to team. Then we're going to have an analyst role that is maybe going to consume some data or something like that. And so you can probably just say that this is going to be able to read a team and nothing else. Then you could have another role that's maybe relative to billing. So you could say that this is the billing role. I'll just call it billing here. And you could just say billing and then maybe they're able to read the team, but nothing else. And then you want to add these to admin as well. Now, of course, if this gets unwieldy, you could pull these out into arrays or something like that, and then just merge those into the array for the role as needed. So actually, let's show how that would work too. So you would say billing roles. Yeah, let's do. That looks more or less correct. There we go. And then you can splat that into this and splat that into this. Analysts can read. Billers can read a team or do anything on subscriptions. And if we come back, billing. I need to change my key here. So this would be analyst. And then if we were to flip back, which we'll do in a moment, you'll see that these are updated in the UI almost immediately. And now you can see here, if we go back to the app, we have our roles set up. I forgot to change the name of the role here, but anyway, that's an exercise to the reader, I suppose. But we have 3 roles, and then if you flip over to the Jetstream documentation for teams here, go down to roles permissions, they have all of this kind of spelled out in more detail. But you can see that you can define these roles however you want, and then there's a helper to check to see if a user has a permission on a certain team. And so you can imagine in your view or wherever, your controller, you can just check very quickly if, For example, if you're going to go and build a billing screen using Laravel Cashier or something like that, you would check the billing role that I just created, or more precisely, the billing permissions, and just see if they have the ability to read or update or all of that stuff. So this is a very simple but elegant way, I think, of getting something set up for a startup to move quickly and without having to research a ton of packages and try to stitch them together and all of this. So I hope this is useful. I think, as I said earlier, that Jetstream does not get nearly enough love from the community. The Laravel community, sure, but I mean the broader world of YouTube influencers and like all this stuff where they're talking about explicitly, they're talking about how can you set up and get moving quickly with a tech stack for your startup, and it's just conspicuously absent to me, Jetstream. And so I wish more people would talk about it because it's really astonishing to me that more people don't use it in light of how quick it is to get started. I mean, you saw all of the stuff that's available. And then also just how easy and elegant it is to scale this out into a lot of different use cases. And whether you're doing an AI app where you have a couple of Python services that then flow through your Laravel app, or you want to use it as the backend for a bunch of other stuff. I mean, it's very flexible and very powerful, very mature too. So instead of spending a bunch of time trying to solve problems again that were solved a decade ago in Node.js or whatever, you can just focus on your business and adapt and learn from your customers and all that stuff and move quickly. And you know what? If you end up not wanting to go with Laravel or Jetstream long term, the data is yours. Like fundamentally, it's going to be in MySQL or Postgres or something, and you can migrate to something else if it's really important. But I think speed at that stage of a project is so important, and this will get you moving quickly, if nothing else. So anyway, take a look at this. It's jetstream.laravel.com. I hope this was helpful. I'll probably do a follow-up video in the near future. I think I'm going to go through how to deploy a basic project on Railway, which is my preferred, at least if I don't have a reason to do something else, it's kind of my preferred way to deploy something in prod, and what that process looks like, and just some of the rough edges and stuff that are not actually that rough. You just have to know how they work. So that's probably coming up next. But if you want to get notified about that or just any other video that I do, please subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like. I enjoy getting the feedback from the community that I'm actually doing something that people enjoy. And I will see you guys next time. Take it easy.